Snow fell in heavy curtains, blanketing the mountains in silence. The sky hung low, gray and endless, as if it wanted to swallow the land whole. A single horseman rode through the storm, his hat pulled low, his coat stiff with frost. Behind him a wooden wagon creaked and groaned, pulled by two exhausted horses. Inside, a woman sat huddled with her two children, clutching them close to shield them from the biting cold. "Almost there," the man called out, his voice muffled by the wind. He pointed ahead to a faint orange glow in the distance, a cabin with smoke rising from its chimney. Hope flickered in their eyes, a fragile warmth against the merciless cold. The man's name was Eli Turner, a former frontiersman who had seen more winters than he cared to count. The woman, Clara, had been a teacher back east before the world had turned cruel, before fever had taken her husband and forced her to flee west with her children, Henry and Rose. Eli had found them 3 days ago, stranded near a frozen stream, their wagon broken, their food gone. He hadn't planned to help anyone. He'd sworn off saving people long ago, but when he saw the fear in Clara's eyes and the way she tried to hide her trembling hands from her children, something in him shifted. Now, as the wind howled and darkness closed in, he led them toward the only shelter for miles, an old trapper's cabin he'd once used years back. The door groaned open when they arrived. Warm air hit their faces, thick with the scent of smoke and pine wood. Eli helped Clara and the children inside, then led the horses to the small barn behind the cabin. When he returned, Clara had lit a lantern and was warming her hands near the fire. The children sat wrapped in blankets, their faces soft and sleepy from the heat. "You saved us," Clara said quietly. Eli shook his head, removing his snow-crusted gloves. "Just did what anyone would do." But they both knew that wasn't true. Out here in the frozen frontier, people saved themselves or they died. The world didn't offer kindness, only choices. The storm raged through the night. Wind clawed at the walls and snow piled high against the windows. Inside, the fire burned low, painting the room in amber light. Eli sat near the door, sharpening his knife, while Clara tended to the children. She hummed softly, a lullaby that reminded him of gentler times before the frontier had turned his heart to stone. "How long do you think this storm will last?" she asked. "Could be a day. Could be 3, he replied. "We've got enough wood to make it through, but we'll need to hunt soon." Clara nodded, though her eyes showed worry. "Do you ever get used to it, this kind of life?" Eli smiled faintly. "You don't get used to it. You just learn not to fight it so hard." They sat in silence for a while, listening to the crackle of the fire and the wind's lonely song. Then Henry spoke up from his blanket. "Mama, will we go home after the snow stops?" Clara hesitated. "We'll find a new home, sweetheart." Eli looked into the fire, the words sinking deep. Home. It was a word he hadn't used in years. His wife, Mary, had died in a snowstorm just like this one, trying to reach the town doctor when their baby fell ill. He never forgave himself for letting her go alone. He stood abruptly and reached for his coat. "I'll check the horses." Outside, the storm had eased to a soft whisper. Snowflakes floated in the moonlight like falling ash. He looked back at the cabin, the warm glow in the window, the faint shadow of Clara moving inside. For the first time in years, Eli felt something thaw in his chest. When he returned, Clara was waiting by the door. "Thank you," she said simply. "For helping us." Eli nodded. "You should get some rest. Tomorrow will be clearer." But neither of them slept well that night. Something in the silence outside felt wrong. Too still, too heavy. And just before dawn, the howling of wolves broke through the calm. Eli was on his feet in an instant. "Stay inside," he ordered Clara as he grabbed his rifle. The children clung to her as he stepped out into the icy dawn. The world was painted silver, the snow reflecting the faint light of the rising sun. At the edge of the trees, dark shapes moved. 3 wolves, maybe 4, hungry and bold. He fired a warning shot. The echo rolled through the forest, but the wolves didn't scatter. They crept closer, eyes glowing like embers. Eli steadied his aim, breath fogging in the cold. The first wolf lunged. The rifle cracked and the beast fell into the snow. The others hesitated, then melted back into the forest shadows. When he returned to the cabin, Clara rushed to him. "Are you hurt?" He shook his head. "No, just cold." She helped him to the fire, her hands trembling. I thought we'd lose you too." He looked up, meeting her gaze, For a moment, the room was utterly still except for the crackling fire. "You won't," he said softly. "Not while I'm here." Days passed, and the storm finally broke. The sky turned clear, the snow glittering like glass under the morning sun. Eli began repairing the wagon, his movements slower now, his mind heavier with thoughts he didn't dare speak. Clara watched him through the window, her heart tangled between gratitude and something deeper, something she hadn't felt since before the world fell apart. That night, they sat together by the fire after the children slept. "When the trail clears," Eli said, "you'll head west. There's a town by the river. I can get you that far." "And then?" Clara asked. He hesitated. "Then I move on. It's what I do." Clara's eyes softened. "You don't always have to keep moving, Eli. Sometimes it's all right to stay." He looked at her then. Really looked. The firelight painted her face in gold, her eyes tired but full of quiet strength. Outside, the snow drifted gently past the window, the storm long gone. Maybe, he thought, she was right. Maybe even the frozen frontier had room for something more than survival. Something like peace or even love. When morning came, the children's laughter filled the air. Eli stepped outside and saw the sun breaking over the mountains, the cabin's smoke rising into the blue. He felt a warmth he hadn't known in years, the warmth of belonging. Clara came to stand beside him, her hand brushing his. "Looks like the world's thawing," she said. "Yeah," he replied quietly. "Maybe it's time I did too." And as the horses snorted and the wagon wheels creaked to life, Eli Turner, the man who'd spent years outrunning ghosts, finally found something worth staying for. The frozen frontier wasn't just a place to survive anymore. It was where his heart had finally come home.